This is Thelma Inga Hanson.
Inga is my. I am baptized Thelma Inga Hanson, and at school and in the official, I am Thelma Hanson. But before I was baptized, they called me Inga, and in the family, and many of my friends called me Inga.
Now tell me your relationship to my dad.
He was my mother's brother.
Okay.
And my mother's name was Thelma Bengtsson, married with Oscar Birger Hanson. And I am named Thelma after her, and the stands Thelma is also named after her because brother and sister, they were very close friends. And I have sent you the letters he wrote when Fred and Carl and Esther were children.
Yes, Thelma has mentioned those letters. She's trying to translate some of them.
Yes.
Well, now tell me the story of my father's father, Charles Wigo Bankston, coming to America.
Yes, it's not so easy, you see.
Tell us what you know about his life and how he...
Yes, they had the Bengtsson family in that big house in Majorna. They had a very fine, good, what could you say, life there. They were, the father was the cigar maker, and he made cigars famous in Göteborg as Charles Locksmith famous in Boston. Yes, and they were musical people, and there was much music and dancing in the house, and it was
Now, how many brothers and sisters were there in the family?
They were one brother, Theobald, who married and had no children.
Yes, he had his picture over here.
Yes, and he died young. But he had a cigar maker's shop. He sold the shop. His father gave him that. Yes, I have to be in the profession. Is that all right?
Oh yeah.
Yes, and
were there other brothers and sisters?
And Carl, as Theobald was the eldest.
Yes.
And I don't know if Carl or Thelma, but Carl, as Theobald, Carl and Thelma were the three children of Carl Alfred and Christina. And the mother died when my mother, as Thelma, was only 17 years old.
You know, perhaps for a moment we should stop while they're trying to cut all these logs, because I don't think the sound is going to come through. Okay?
Yes.
Well, give me an explanation again of what. There's Axel.
No, I tell that.
Okay.
We were three of us. Gurli, in the family always named Gulla, was the oldest, what do you say? And then came Axel, and he was an engineer in the welding company, ISAB, a world famous company. He was in that as a young engineer from the beginning, where his firm being bigger and bigger.
And then you were the third.
I was the third one. 10 years after Axel, I was born.
And then Axel is Ben's father. And
Axel's wife.
Axel's relationship to Papa Benton was...
Papa Benton was his uncle.
Was his uncle. Okay.
But Axel, our mother was the sister of Papa Benton.
Okay. Okay.
And her father was Captain Hanson, Uncle Luke.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
Uncle are called here.
Okay. And
He was
Uncle.
my father,
Yes.
Oscar Birger
And he was a
Hanson.
captain
Was
of a
the
great
sea
vessel.
captain, and he was the captain, and Papa Benton,
Yes,
Charles Wigo Benton, was the machinist.
yes, but
The
they were
engineer.
never on the same boat. You see.
Oh, they were never on the same boat.
No, no,
Uh-huh.
no.
And then for how many, about what age would Papa Benton have been when he was a machinist? Would be like in his 20s?
Yes, he was just examined from the school and went
I
out
see.
to sea
And went and
as a
did-
young man.
And then,
About, I don't know, perhaps about, not 20, I don't think so.
And do you know, or maybe you know this, Dad, what year they got married?
Well, my mother?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
Fred,
it's Esther will tell you that.
Uh-huh.
Esther can tell you. Esther? Esther?
Esther, when were your parents married?
What,
When,
when?
though?
What year?
I think it was 1905.
I see. How did Emma get to Malden?
She came over from Sweden when she was only 18 years old.
Well, how did she do that?
She came over on the boat,
And she just,
and she immigrated here,
uh-huh.
and she settled in Malden, Massachusetts, and she went to the Swedish church, and she met Mrs. Tilburg, who took in boarders.
Uh-huh.
At a bed and breakfast.
And my father was a boarder at the Tilburgs.
Oh.
And my mother worked in a family as a cook or a maid, I'm not sure which. And she would go to visit the Tilburgs on her day off on Thursday. And that's when she met Benke, as she called him.
Uh-huh.
Charlie?
Well, she called him Benke. And they were married in Malden. And they lived in Malden when they were first married. And Carl was born there, and they had a house in the Maplewood section of Malden.
Uh-huh.
And then later on, they moved to Everett. And Papa came into a small inheritance from his father,
but that was later.
and he went to Sweden to get his inheritance, and that was
No, he didn't. That's not right.
Oh, he told. We know he went there on his honeymoon by himself.
No, he didn't go until years later.
Oh, well, he used that money that he got from Sweden for a down payment on the house. That's what he told us.
Yes,
Well, tell me, back again to Papa Benton
Yes,
on the boat.
Yes.
He would have been on the boat, say, working as a machinist, say, for like 5 or 10 years.
I don't know.
I mean, something like that.
When did he marry?
He married in 1905
Five.
or so.
He was born about 1860 or something.
Uh-huh.
I have a date, but not.
So he would have been fairly old when he got married. Which I
But
guess would
as-
be true, because he was a pretty old guy when he was a dad.
My mother was born 1864.
Yes.
And there was an elder brother, and I don't know if Papa Benton was born before or after my mother.
Uh-huh.
But it must have been in the about 1860.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So he then was really up until his mid-30s, or until he was about 40. He was on the ocean.
Oh no.
He was doing his work as a machinist,
Yes.
and then he came to America.
And Esther talked to you. I didn't know about how they met,
Uh huh.
but I know I don't know if I ought to tell you that, but in fact, in Gothenburg, there was another woman whom he almost was
Uh-huh.
engaged to before
Uh-huh.
going out and meeting
I see.
Emma.
Uh-huh.
And he wrote to his sister to tell the woman in Gothenburg about this new thing in the USA.
Oh.
But just, I don't know
Uh-huh.
if it was just
Uh-huh.
before or after he
Uh-huh.
married, or had made
Yeah.
the decision
Uh-huh.
for having Emma as his wife. He got back to Sweden just to make things all right with this first woman
Uh-huh.
whom he
Uh-huh.
had been a friend with.
Uh-huh.
They met. I think my mother has told my sister Gullan about their coming to my mother's home together. As the Swedish woman and your Papa Benton before he was Papa Benton, and so he that was all right. He decided for Emma and came back to make that
To make a life in America.
no, to make
Uh-huh.
to meet the first woman, you see,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
make things all right with her before he
Yeah.
is just going on
Yeah.
living with them and marrying her, so
Uh-huh.
on.
Uh-huh.
That was all right. He was
Yeah.
he was a good man. He wouldn't
Yeah.
do, but things were like that, you
Uh-huh.
see. And
I can't get over that nice one you gave me.
known Papa Benton's father. He was my grandfather on my mother's side. And when we were children, he liked us very much, coming up to be kind to us, and we had fun together. There was music and stories and so on. And we lived in the house beside our house and his house were
Yes,
just
with the
neighbors.
ones that we
They
got
were
the pictures of
neighbors.
yesterday, yeah.
And the father, he was a cigar maker, and he had a shop where he sold his cigars. So I can remember as a small girl, as those twins there, I was in the shop selling cigarettes for 10 euro. That's, yes. And
Papa
but his
Benton-
wife, your Papa Benton's mother died young, you see.
Uh-huh.
And until my mother married, she kept the house for him and the brothers. And when my when my mother, your Papa Benton's sister, my mother married, then her father, so the father of Papa Benton and my mother, he married a Danish lady who lived in Gothenburg.
Uh-huh.
But the second wife, she died in 1918, and her name was Tubra.
Uh-huh.
She was from the Danish town Helsingør, we say, Elsinore, where the Hamlet drama is.
I have to stop. My tape is ending.